Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
I've been a Batman fan for the majority of my life, ever since I was an infant. From then, I went on to liking Superman and everything DC Comics. So throughout my collection of Batman and Superman merchandise, and just all-around fandom, I now have purchased Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. It will go with my Batman Superman collection, with all the comics, video games, films, TV series. And I really liked the theatrical cut. I didn't think it deserved all the hate it got. But one thing I do wonder after seeing the Ultimate Edition is,
holy shit! What the hell was Warner Brothers thinking? Hello YouTubers, this is Frederick Lopez on a special movie review. I usually do this on my second channel, but I decided to do it on the Dark Knight of Steel channel and talk about Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. And my god, this version is leaps and bounds better than the theatrical. And this is coming from a guy who liked it theatrically. There was some issues with the theatrical edition, but I didn't flat out hate it, and I didn't think it deserved the hate it got. And I really liked it. But this just really explores more. And I had a feeling that they cut out certain portions of the film. And this isn't going to contain spoilers, by the way, but like, when you watch the theatrical edition, it would fade to black every now and then, especially in the beginning Africa sequence, and then with some of the dream sequences. And that was just odd, especially when there's like another action that tells me that there was giant sequences taken out of the film. Otherwise, they would be able to do a straight cut. I could tell there were sequences taken out. It'd be like, for instance, the beginning with Bruce Wayne, where he finds one of his workers trapped. He's just looking through the debris and then finds him, but they don't show the school children, but it goes from a straight cut to him looking to already being by his building. And I knew with the fades to black that they didn't have a straight cut, that there's an entire sequence, and it makes much more sense with the Africa scene. And before I go more into detail about this Ultimate Edition on Blu-ray, I have to say, Warner Brothers cut out the story. They gutted the story. You needed that Africa sequence to work. Now, I was able to fill in the gaps with my head, know that KG Beast worked for Lex, other stuff like that, but it really makes it much more clear. And really adds a lot more with the media, and then as well as Lex's plan. I think Lex Luthor, as far as like his plan and everything, really gets a lot more to shine in this Ultimate Edition, I feel. But yeah, it's 3 hours and 2 minutes long, and yeah, 30 minutes extra, but I have to tell you, the 30 minutes make the biggest difference in the world. You get to see how Lois Lane got in Africa. There's a CIA agent there who's Jimmy Olsen, after all. I was surprised. He gets shot in the face. Yeah, spoilers. But what's even more crazy is that Michael Cassidy plays Jimmy Olsen. Now, some Smallville fans may remember him as Grant Gabriel, a.k.a. Julian, a clone of Julian, Lex's brother, in Season 7 of Smallville. So it's just sad that he has to get shot in Superman renditions, you know? But, what can I say? A lot of people from Smallville are in this series. Dr. Emil Hamilton from Smallville was in Man of Steel. Let's see, the random cop guy from that Season 8 episode was in Man of Steel. Oh yeah, and don't forget Amy Adams, you know. She's no longer having that weight or hunger issue like she was in Season 1 of Smallville, so that's pretty good. Anyway, I digress. So you get to have a lot more fleshed out. The beginning starts off a bit better, has a narration. The Waynes get murdered. It says Ultimate Edition on there. And then you get to see a little bit more of Bruce and Metropolis. You find out there's school children there, so it makes sense why there's a random girl looking for her mother. There is a field trip going on. And it just really adds a lot more to it. But most of all, in this film, besides Lex's stuff, there's a lot more of Clark Kent, investigative journalist. And you really get to have more of Henry Cavill as Clark Kent as Superman. I thought he did a great job as Superman this time around in the theatrical edition, but this one, you get to see more of his Clark Kent, and it really becomes more of a Superman Clark Kent film instead of a Batman film. And Batman's actually a little bit more villainified here. He was pretty much the villain in the theatrical cut as well, but it was like more for seeing Superman and through Batman's eyes and why he's fighting him. But in this one, it really makes more sense why Clark Kent is against the Bat, because before it seems like he was going into area that was like unnecessary. It's just like, why don't you just leave the Bat alone? Why is he such a bad guy? Well, here he gets to visit Gotham, see how people are afraid of him, see how dark he's become. You get to have more clarification on the body that was branded. It turns out one of Lex Luthor's men, KG Beast, called a convict in prison, tell him to shank him so he would die. And then that's when the photos were sent to Clark Kent, because Lex Luthor already knew their identity. So it just makes it a little bit more clear. But also, you find out that there is a whole African plot, that the lady that was on the news for just one brief time that was testifying at the beginning, she just featured there. She actually was hired by Lex. It's a script. Her family's okay. They're doing it to set up Superman. The senator later finds out that she was lying, and then it adds more fear and more of a ticking clock to the Capitol scene. It kind of reminds me of The Dark Knight, when it was getting towards a party scene and all these elements were coming together, and it was just really, really intense. And it adds as well to why she was so afraid of the Granny's peach tea thing, not only because it was a jar of piss, but because she found out about Lex Luthor setting it all up before. So it really adds a lot more to Lex Luthor's menace and then why people are afraid of him. There's also more of the media. You have Jon Stewart, Nancy Grace, and then as well as the others. And that's one thing I like about this film. It goes more into detail than the theatrical, but it's really a film that is like, what would it be like if Superman was in the real world? How would the world react if Superman was real? And that's one thing I really love about this film. But you also get to see media as a third character, and then like certain perceptions. So like Bruce Wayne doesn't know Superman, but through perceptions of the media, he just assumes that he's this type of being. And then as well as the Batman, so like you get to see their two views, more optimistic, and the other one's just a little bit more dark. It just shows like the difference between them two. But it adds a lot. It's very, very long, but I would have loved if this version was released to begin with. I like Zack Snyder's work, so I didn't have a problem with the theatrical, and I knew the unrated was going to be good, just like the Watchmen Ultimate Cut or Sucker Punch. But one thing I have to say, usually Director's Cut or Ultimate Editions, they usually add a little bit more stuff. Sometimes it's a much better film, sometimes it's like unnecessary stuff. But this was like the main story. I don't know why the hell they cut out certain scenes. And some of the stuff that was really great was just like a minute at the max. If not like a little bit more. Like certain sequences, yes, they may have had to cut it. But like still, it's just ridiculous. I've never seen a cut. I've never seen a film this botched up. I watched it theatrical after watching the Ultimate Edition, and I was just like, damn. You could really notice the edit points and where they just botched it up. It felt like TNT Abominations. Like the Ultimate Edition was a real film, and what we all saw in theaters was something that was showing TNT on a Saturday morning, you know? It's just crazy. Crazy. There's extra dialogue between Lex Luthor and Batman. He knows that Bruce is Batman, and then he says, I'm going to transfer you to Arkham Asylum. Just crazy stuff. Now, y'all may have saw this early on digital, but I just got it yesterday. And it's a much better film. I gave the theatrical version an 8 out of 10 and a 3.5 out of 4. I'm going to bump the Ultimate Edition to a 9.5 out of 10 and a 3.7 out of 4. It still has some of the same issues, but it makes it a more coherent story and really just adds a lot more to it. The weight of like him sacrificing himself. I already felt it before. I was sad at the ending of the theatrical, but we really feel it in this one. And then Lex Luthor's plans became more clear. And because you're just automatically assuming that KG Beast and his men were working with Lex Luthor because Bruce was looking for the white Portuguese. Well, this one makes it clear that that's his henchman, and it adds a lot more to it. Also, just the way it flows more like a film. Like there's certain points where they go from one setting to the other, and like this one, they set up settings. So like Clark actually gets to go to Gotham, like I said earlier. You get to see him, and it's not like he disappears at that ball and see Bruce Wayne and Lex and them there out of nowhere. It made it seem like he was dishing a sports thing, which he was, but he was actually investigating there. And then when Lois was going to investigate the bullet, Perry White's just like, you got an invitation to this thing. Some rich guy may like nerds or something. So he goes to that, so it makes sense why he's there, and it just flows a lot better, more organically. It feels natural. It feels like a film. Yeah, J.C. Eisenberg, he is a little crazy, but like I said in my earlier reviews, he's basically the mad scientist Lex from the early comics. They blended the corporate Lex with the mad scientist, but I think we're going to see him go into the more cold and calculative businessman the further it goes along. They're just going where the comics are, and I feel like people just forgot that. They just remember, like, after Gene Hackman, which is a great Lex Luthor, but, like, they don't remember he was, like, a mad scientist with red hair before. And he also reminds me a bit of the 90s Lex, Lex 2, where he transfers his consciousness to a younger body. That's what he kind of reminds me of. It was overwhelming watching this. It was a long film for me. I had a headache, but it wasn't bad. It was just like there's so much packed into this film. And I have to say, it's a very different superhero film. And we have some very ambitious superhero films this year, but this one is a very intelligent superhero film. And just serious. But I'm not like talking about dark and gritty versus humor. I'm just saying, like, I can take this seriously. This feels like it's in the real world, that they're trying to do something with this that's different than the other superhero movies. They're not cracking jokes or anything, but there is some funny parts, like when Wonder Woman's there and she's like, "Is she with you?" And Batman's like, "I thought she was with you." Just funny. But yeah, a lot more to Clark and Lois in this. Lois, you get to see more of an investigative side, and then also Jenna Malone plays a small part. Now, she wasn't Batgirl or any other characters. At first, when I saw the trailer, I thought she might have been Chloe Sullivan, but she was just a Star Labs scientist, and she investigates the bullet. She's like, "Yeah, there's nothing like this. This is brand new." So, like, yeah. And they burn the bodies at the beginning, so it makes it clear that Superman did it. And I'm guessing since the bullets were different, they couldn't identify it to anything sold before. So maybe they had their suspicions, but they couldn't trace it back to any person. Even though they had a feeling it was Lex, they just had to prove it. But it makes more sense why people were mad about the Africa incident with the fake script and him burning the bodies. And he gets, like, attack a drone. There's, like, so much more stuff that I'm not going to go too much into detail because you're going to have to see it for yourself. It's just like, wow. Okay, 30 minutes into this movie, I was just like, wow, they cut out so much. I was, like, already enjoying the movie in the first 30 minutes, and I just couldn't believe how much Warner Brothers cut out. And it's 3 weeks before the damn release. I know it's because of the rating. I know it's because of, like, running time and money, but you know what? Let the director's vision go through, okay? I'm afraid Warner Brothers is sticking their noses in. Christopher Nolan, the reason why he had free reign, he was a better filmmaker, but the only reason why he had free reign is because they screwed up with Batman and Robin, and Batman was dead for 8 years. So Christopher Nolan brought it back from the dead, and they said, "Do whatever you need to do." Now they're getting too much of their noses in and messing up with the editing and stuff that I feel like it's going to be like the Tim Burton days, where it's just like you have a good Batman, and then they get in, fire director, make it more toy etiquette and stuff. It's just like, no. You need to keep with a certain vision. I like it dark. You read DC Comics, yeah, some of them are more lighter, but like now lately, DC Comics, especially through a long period of time, has always been darker, more realistic with heroes. And I love that. But it's a gateway to a bigger universe, and this is the first one with the DC logo, so that's pretty cool. Had a double feature with Man of Steel in this. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else I may be forgetting. The Doomsday stuff was a little bit rushed. The flashback stuff was good. The dream sequences I liked personally because it reminded me of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, was some of the narration of Bruce Wayne. The future vision, Flash. I knew that was Flash, and before anybody says, "Oh, that was just out of place and not like the comics," people don't know that's a Flash. Ask 10 hardcore DC fans. Really? Well, maybe those 10 hardcore DC fans could tell you that's from Crisis on Infinite Earths. Exactly. Right here. Told you so. Anyway, that could have been out of the film, could have been after credits, but you know what? I liked it. It gave motivation for Batman to go after Superman, and then it was a cool Injustice Gods Among Us, Crisis on Infinite Earths Easter egg. So, I mean, it took me out of it a bit, but it wasn't like to the point where I didn't enjoy the film. I'm like, okay, but I hope it'd be better if they paid that off in a later Justice League film of like Flash saying, "I'm going to go back in time and warn you," and then he goes back too far. So they wouldn't be making it up. You'd be like, "Oh my God, that happened in BVS Dawn of Justice." But that's if they pay it off. So we'll have to see. But yeah, definitely check this out. The special features on this, they're good. They're just a little more commercialized. Like, I wanted more in-depth stuff, but it's great. I mean, they have like stuff in the Batmobile, the DC Universe with Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Them trying on their outfits. The metal suit was real. I thought it was all mocap. They actually had some part of it that was real. Like, the mocap was for the more physical stuff, but like the metal suit was real. That's pretty cool. You get to see more of Pete Ross. Ginny Olsen and Perry White are at Clark's funeral. And the priest for Man of Steel, like, there's just so much that they cut out. Little stuff, too, that I'm like, it's a real travesty. But I enjoy the theatrical cut, and if you enjoy the theatrical cut, check out this. It is great. Yeah. I may watch the theatrical cut if I'm, like, in a rush and need to get done with it quickly. But this is a much far superior film. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10. Oh yeah, and there's also a random F-bomb. The guy in the wheelchair, he's just like, what the hell are you doing here talking to Lex? And then out of nowhere, he just says, what the fuck do you want? And I was just like, whoa, that totally surprised me. There's a little bit more blood and gore, which is actually really cool. Just minor. And I don't know why it was R. Like, maybe I could see, but it's maybe just a content, because he probably couldn't take little kids to this. But then again, I don't remember doing that for the other Batman movies. But, yeah, there's that. And then a random shot of Ben Affleck's ass. He's a real badass in this. Yeah, there's a painkiller scene. And it's kind of cool because there's a shower and painkillers. And this brought me back to Daredevil in a way. But, yeah. I could go over and over on this. But that's just my quick review. Buy this, check it out. Yeah, if you like any more reviews like this or just my thoughts, go over to my second channel, the Frederick Lopez channel. I have much more stuff on that. And then I'm going to have an upcoming Scream retrospective on my retrospective horror film review segment called The Final Cut. And then we're going to have Die Hard and Action Reaction, as well as Mission Impossible 2. In addition, feel free to comment, tell me your thoughts on the movie, if you thought it was shit, if you thought it was great, if you liked it, what you liked, didn't like, what they could improve upon. Like the video and subscribe, and check out my other videos. I have other music videos, and then check out my Frederick Lopez channel if you want to check out more movie review stuff. I'm also going to be having a segment called PCDC, which is politically correct about anything and everything DC Comics, and I'm going to be going over this in much more detail later, and as well as Comic-Con stuff, my Arrow Season 4 thoughts, Flash, Supergirl moving to the CW, as well as the BVS Backlash. So I'm going to be going more issues. And there's some stuff with the comics, too, in the Rebirth series. So, yeah, feel free to check out my second channel if you want to see more personal videos. I may have other vlogs, short films I make, and just more thought-oriented videos, review videos. And, yeah, check out my music videos on The Dark Knight of Steel here. So, yeah, feel free to do that. And if you want to check out my other reviews, my initial thoughts of the theatrical, the non-spoiler one is here on Dark Knight of Steel, and spoiler-filled one is on my Frederick Lopez channel. So yeah, feel free to do that, and you have a good day. And that's just my thoughts. I'm going to go watch this again. Maybe like the last 30 minutes, but yeah.